Good afternoon. I'm Deacon Micki, and today we're going to talk about grief. The pandemic has created a multitude of different types of grief. Generally, when we're talking about grief, we're talking about uh, somebody who's died and we miss them. But there's lots of different types of grief. There's grief over a lost dream, or grief over a lost job, or a lost marriage, or a breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend. We grieve lots of different kinds of losses. And today I think it's really important that we talk about those kids who were seniors this year, and the loss that many of them are feeling. Um, the grief has a lot of different aspects to it. Grief over not being able to walk across that stage and get their diploma, the grief over not being with their friends, the grief over, that last hurrah before they begin the next chapter of their lives. You can just, there's so many things that you can pile up on that. These seniors are grieving the loss of so many milestones in their life. Even up to and including something that we might think is really silly, like senior skip day or baccalaureate, or any of those things that are milestones in a child's history. Prom and graduation are probably the two biggest ones. The students, when the ones that I've seen that have been sharing their grief, they get a lot of stuff like, well, at least you didn't graduate and then have to go to Vietnam, or at least you didn't drop out of school and have to go to Vietnam, or somebody else always has it so much worse, and this was just graduation, we'll just do it later. In essence, what we've been telling these seniors is that their grief is unimportant, or that what they're saying is not being heard. And it's just wrong for any of us to do that. The feelings they're having are very deep and very strong, and it's important for all of us to listen to each one of them when they're expressing that grief. We can empathize with them, we can talk about feelings, we can just, we can't fix it, but we can certainly listen, and we can certainly think about, when we went to prom or when we graduated, how much happiness there was in that, and realize that's something that they're really grieving the loss of. And you might be surprised when you listen to them. You might open up a whole new conversation about their hopes, their dreams, their losses, their sadness. It's really important to be able to hear what they're saying instead of just poo-pooing whatever it is that they're grieving the loss of. There's a lot of pain in the losses they're experiencing, and maybe they don't want to talk about it right now, but encourage them to talk about what they're envisioning when we get through this pandemic. Once you've had the conversation about grief with your senior, or whoever you're having that conversation with, and perhaps you can come up with ways to work through that grief. And I've listed probably five things. The first one is, maybe you can have a Zoom party, plan it, decorate for it, invite people to it, and then just have a big party where people are visiting and dancing and enjoying being together, even if it's on Zoom. Sharing your stories. When you share your story, you're bearing witness to this time in history. something none of us have been through before. The world has, but we haven't. It's been a very, very long time since there was a pandemic. And so you're witnessing history taking place, and you have your own experience of it. If you're at home with toddlers, that's one experience. If you're a teacher missing your students, that's another experience. If you're a family who has somebody who has contracted the virus, that's a different experience. And if you're a senior who is planning on graduating this year, then you have your own experience. Journal or draw your thoughts each day. Paste in stories of news articles. If you're an artist, draw the feelings that go with whatever words you're using. Make it your own book of this time where you had to stay home or wear a mask or not be with your friends. The day like today when Governor Abbott says we're not opening up schools this year anymore. It'll be in the fall when we open them up again. That's a big deal. Talk about it, journal it. Talk about the feelings that brings up for you. I know that there are many kids that are really enjoying the at-home part of online learning, but there's many more who are not. So talk about it. Take a walk in your backyard, or some neighborhoods have sidewalks you can walk on. When you come up to people, you go to the other side of the road. You can still be safe, and being outside in the air and in the sun is good for your emotions. It's good for your feelings. It's good for your health. Maybe you just want to sit on your front porch and be with yourself, with your own thoughts. The last one that I put down was, do not allow anyone or anything to steal your joy. It is so easy right now to be sad and to be over the top in our emotions. We can deal with those emotions, but when you allow it to steal your joy, then you're just sad all the time. You don't want to be sad. Acknowledge it, respect your feelings, write about them, talk about them, and then do something that brings you joy. And the last thing I would say is own your own story. Don't let somebody else tell you how you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you are making plans for when this is over. You have your own story. Make it yours. If you have questions, if you want to just talk about this, you're welcome to email me or message me on Facebook. I will be happy to have a conversation with you. If you're a senior and you're having a really difficult time talking about your feelings, let me know. I'll listen. If you're a parent who's trying to figure out, how do I deal with this? They've never talked to me about their feelings before. Message me. I will be happy to help. There are lots of ways to listen. There are lots of ways to interact. So we can all get through this. None of us are doing this alone. We're all doing this together. If you have questions or comments, bring them on. I'll talk to you next week.